I want you to picture a prison cell, 4 walls, a locked door, no windows. Now I want you to picture the person who built it. You might be expecting me to describe some outside force, society, your upbringing, other people. And yes, those things leave marks, but the architect of the deepest, most suffocating prison most people live inside, that's you. You drew the blueprints, you laid the bricks, you turned the key, and then, and this is the part that matters, you convinced yourself you were trapped. There's no physical bars in this prison. There's no warden with a badge. There's no sentence handed down by a judge. The walls are made of something far harder to break through than concrete. They're made of the stories you tell yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, and what you deserve. Self-doubt, fear, the voice in your head that says, that's not for people like me. The belief so deep and so old, you've stopped questioning it, that the life you actually want is out of reach. That's the cell. And the cruelest part of it is this: you hold the key. You have always held the key. You just convinced yourself the lock was impossible to open. That's what we're taking apart today, brick by brick. Because the day you realize you are both the prisoner and the warden is the day the prison loses its power over you. That's the greatest escape you'll ever pull off, and it starts right now. Nobody builds their mental prison on purpose. That's the first thing to understand. You didn't wake up one day and decide to make your life smaller. You didn't choose consciously to cap your own potential. The prison got built slowly, over years, one brick at a time, and most of those bricks were laid before you were old enough to question them. Think about how early it starts. A child raises their hand in class, gets the answer wrong, and the room laughs. That's one brick. A kid tries something new, gets told they're not good at it, and stops trying. That's another brick. A teenager shares a dream, something they actually care about, and the adults in the room smile politely and say, that's nice, but be realistic. That's a whole wall. By the time most people reach adulthood, significant construction has already been done. And the dangerous thing about beliefs formed that early is that they don't feel like beliefs anymore. They feel like facts. They feel like the truth about who you are. I'm not smart enough. I'm not the kind of person who succeeds at things like that. People like me don't get to live like that. If I really go for it and fail, everyone will see I was fooling myself. Those aren't truths. They're old bricks, laid by other people's careless words, by early failures you were too young to process properly, by a world that often rewards conformity and punishes ambition. But here's what happens over time. You stop noticing the bricks. You stop seeing the walls. The prison becomes so familiar that it starts to feel like home. You decorate it. You get comfortable in it. You start defending it when anyone tries to point out that the door isn't actually locked. That's the most sophisticating thing the mind does. It makes the cage feel safe. The outside, the open space beyond those walls, where the things you actually want are, that starts to feel dangerous, uncertain, exposed. The prison, for all its misery, at least offers one thing. You know what to expect inside it. So people stay. They stay and call it being realistic. They stay and call it knowing their limits. They stay and watch other people living the lives they want and tell themselves those people are different, special, lucky. Anything to avoid confronting the real reason they haven't moved. The real reason is the prison, and the prison is theirs. Every prison has a warden. Yours does too. The warden in your head has a very specific job. Its job is to keep you inside, to maintain order, to make sure you don't try anything too bold, too different, too exposed. The warden is not cruel for cruelty's sake. The warden genuinely believes it's protecting you. That's what makes it so effective. The warden speaks in the voice of reason. It doesn't say I'm stopping you because I'm afraid. It says, let's be practical here. It doesn't say, I don't want you to risk being hurt. It says, think about all the ways this could go wrong. It doesn't say, stay small. It says, let's just wait until the timing is better. The warden is the voice that fires up the moment you start to move, the moment you get close to something that actually matters to you, a new direction, a real risk, a genuine attempt at the life you want. That voice gets loud. Suddenly, there are 100 reasons why now isn't the right time. Suddenly, you need more preparation, more certainty, more proof that it won't fail. And you listen because the warden sounds logical. It sounds responsible. It sounds like the adult in the room. What it actually is fear wearing a suit. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of trying your hardest and still coming up short, because that would mean something about you that you are not ready to face. Fear, sometimes, of success itself, because success would require you to become someone different, someone you don't yet know how to be. The warden has a partner too, the interrogator. Most people have an internal interrogator that runs on a loop. It takes every aspiration you have and puts it in a chair under a bright light. Who do you think you are? What makes you think you can do that? What are people going to say? What happens when you fail? Have you forgotten what happened last time? The interrogator is relentless. It doesn't need evidence. It builds its case out of worst-case scenarios and half-remembered failures and the imagined opinions of people who are probably not thinking about you at all. You can spend an entire day without leaving your house, and the interrogator will still put in a full shift. This is what makes the mental prison so exhausting. There's no off switch. There's no end of the workday. The confinement is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it follows you everywhere you go. The person who struggles to take a risk at work goes home and the interrogator follows them. The person who can't bring themselves to start the thing they care about goes to sleep and the interrogator whispers while they try to rest. The person who watches someone else living boldly and feels that sting of longing, the interrogator is there immediately, explaining all the reasons why that's not available to them. It's relentless and it's yours, which means you can fire it. Before you can break out, you have to know what you're breaking out of. Most people have never actually sat down and looked, clearly and honestly, at the specific beliefs that are keeping them confined. They feel the confinement, the heaviness, the stuckness, the gap between where they are and where they want to be, but they haven't identified the exact bricks in the wall. That's the first step in the escape. Get specific. A vague sense of being held back is not enough information to work with. You need to name the actual beliefs. Write them down if you have to. Get them out of your head where they are unchallenged and put them somewhere you can actually look at them. Here's what a limiting belief sounds like when you pull it out into the open. I'm not smart enough to be taken seriously in that room. I always self-sabotage, so there's no point in starting. Money is for other kinds of people. I'm too old to change direction now. I'd go for it, but I can't handle failing publicly. The people in my life would think differently of me if I actually tried. Those are bricks, every single one of them. And here's what's important to understand about each of them. They feel like facts. They feel like honest self-assessments. They feel like wisdom, like you're just being clear-eyed about reality. There are stories, old ones, written by a younger version of you, in a moment of pain or fear or embarrassment, based on very limited information, and you've been living inside them ever since. The process of taking inventory is uncomfortable. Some of what you find will surprise you. Some of it you've known for years, but refuse to write down because writing it down makes it real. Some of it will trace directly back to specific moments, a teacher, a parent, a failure that hit harder than you admitted at the time. Do it anyway. The inventory is not about blame. It's about seeing clearly what is actually in the walls around you, because you cannot tear down a wall you refuse to look at. Here's a question worth sitting with. In the area of your life where you feel most stuck, what do you believe, deep down, about your own worthiness or ability in that area? Not the confident version you present to the world, the actual unfiltered belief that operates underneath everything. That belief is the brick. And the moment you see it clearly, really see it, name it, hold it up to the light, it starts to lose its power, because a belief that lives in the dark feels like the truth. A belief you can see and examine and question is just a belief, and beliefs can change. So how do you actually get out? I want to be direct with you about this because there's a lot of noise out there promising overnight transformation. A single podcast episode that rewires your brain, a morning routine that eliminates fear, a mindset hack that makes self-doubt disappear. That's not how this works. The prison break is a process. It's daily, deliberate, and sometimes slow. Some days you take a wall down and the next day you catch yourself stacking bricks again. That's not failure. That's just how deeply ingrained these patterns are. Here's what the real process looks like. Step 1. Challenge the belief directly. When the warden's voice fires up, when the interrogator starts its routine, stop accepting its claims as true. Start treating them as arguments. Arguments can be cross-examined. The interrogator says, "You're not smart enough for that." You ask back, "What's the actual evidence for that? Is there any evidence to the contrary? Have I ever done something I initially believed I couldn't do?" You will find almost every time that the belief has very little real evidence behind it. It's built on one or two old moments blown up to fill an entire worldview. When you force it to stand up in cross-examination, it wobbles. Do this consistently. Every time the warden shows up, cross-examine it. You're building a new habit, the habit of questioning your own limitations instead of accepting them. Step 2. Take small action in the direction of the fear. This is the one most people skip. They do the mental work, they identify the beliefs, they journal about it, they feel a shift, and then they wait for the fear to fully disappear before they act. The fear doesn't go away first. Action comes first. The fear shrinks after. Every time you do the thing you were afraid to do, even in a small way, you send a signal to your own nervous system. You show yourself through direct experience that the catastrophe the warden predicted did not happen, that you survived, that the wall was not as solid as it looked. Start small enough that you can actually do it. If the dream feels overwhelming, find the smallest possible version of moving toward it. The first step doesn't have to be a leap. It just has to be a step. Step 3. Stop feeding the interrogator. The interrogator lives on replaying failures, on imagining future disasters. Every time you sit in your own head, running worst-case scenarios, you're giving the interrogator more material to work with. Break that loop with action, with forward focus, with getting your attention out of the abstract and into the concrete. What is the next real thing you can do? Put your energy there. Step 4. Build a record of your own courage. This one is underrated. Every time you challenge a belief, every time you act despite fear, every time you do something the warden said you couldn't do, write it down. Keep track. Build a record of your own evidence. Because the interrogator keeps a record too. It remembers every failure, every embarrassment, every time things didn't go your way. You need a counter record. A list of times you came through, times you surprised yourself, times the wall turned out to be paper. Over time, that record becomes the foundation of genuine self-trust. And self-trust is what the prison was always designed to prevent. When you've been doing this work long enough, when you've broken enough walls down, cross-examined enough false beliefs, taken enough action in the direction of things that scared you, your relationship with yourself fundamentally changes. The first thing that you notice is that the interrogator gets quieter. It doesn't vanish completely, but it stops running the show. You start to catch it faster, challenge it sooner, and dismiss it when it doesn't hold up. What used to derail you for days starts to take minutes to process and move past. The second thing you notice is that you start trusting your own judgment. For people who lived inside a mental prison for a long time, this is profound. Self-trust has been so eroded by years of self-doubt that making decisions felt impossible. Every choice seemed catastrophic. When the interrogator loses its grip, decision-making gets cleaner. You back yourself. The third thing you notice is that your tolerance for discomfort grows. The fear doesn't disappear. Fear is part of attempting things that matter. What changes is your relationship to it. You stop treating fear as a stop sign. You start treating it as a signal that something worth doing is right in front of you. People who have broken out of their mental prisons still feel fear. They just walk toward it instead of away from it. And the fourth thing, the one that changes everything, is that the life you actually want stops feeling like a fantasy and starts feeling like a direction. You stop watching from behind the glass and start moving. Once you've proven to yourself, through real action, that the walls were never as solid as you believed, you can't fully go back. You've seen behind the curtain. You know the prison was yours to begin with, and you know that means the freedom is yours too. I'll leave you with this. The prison is real. The walls are real. Built from real pain, real failures, real words people said to you at the wrong moment. I'm not dismissing any of that. The experiences that built your limiting beliefs were genuine experiences. They left genuine marks. The prison is real. The lock is not. You have been holding the key the entire time. Every moment you spent convincing yourself the door was sealed, you were holding it in your hand. That's not a reason to be hard on yourself. It's a reason to get moving. Most people will read or hear something like this, feel it land, feel the truth of it in their chest, and then go back to their day and wait for a better moment to start. They'll wait until they feel more ready, until circumstances improve, until fear goes away on its own. Fear does not go away on its own. It waits too. The escape begins the moment you decide it begins. The moment you take one honest look at one specific wall and say, I built that, and I can take it down. The moment you hear the interrogator start its routine and say, I'm not doing this today. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You need one step, one crack in the wall, one moment of choosing your own potential over your own fear. That's how every prison break starts. The architect of your prison is also the architect of your freedom. The same mind that built those walls can dismantle them, deliberately, brick by brick, over time, until one day you look around and realize there's nothing left between you and the life you were always meant to live. Plan the escape. Take the first step. The door is already open.